Thank you, Robin. There's two more points I wanted to reach on before we go to the questions. One, here again is the website to set up your ETPL access. It's worksourcegaportal.com. To speed up the process, we're asking that once you complete your profile setup, you send us an email to etpl@tcsg.edu to activate your account. Once you have access to your account, we're asking for you to go into your profile and review all the active programs you have in your profile. The reason for this is because say there's 10 programs right now in your profile, but you only use 8 of those. So instead of the end of the year, you're being graded on all 10, the best thing is you're only being graded on the ones you're using. So if you send us an email and let us know, take these 2 programs off we're not using anymore, you won't be graded on those at the end of the year, only on the 8 that you're using. So, all right, that's all I had to pass. And if you are removing any programs, please email us and CC your local workforce development contact as well. So they'll be in the loop on which ones are being removed. All right, we will now go to questions. Again, like Robin said, there's 2 ways to answer questions in here. You can raise your hand and ask it verbally, or we can answer the questions in the question and answer box. So let's see, do we have, okay, we have a question here from Deborah Dickens. I will, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I noticed that somebody asked the question and you answered it in the chat box that you do have to report on all students, even if you don't have them, any students in a WIOA program who's taking advantage of WIOA funds in that particular quarter or time period. But it is limited just to your WIOA approved program, not any program you do, right?
That's correct. Any program you have on the ETPL, regardless if it has a WIOA student or not, you have to report on it, which is why I just said it a minute ago that if it's a program that you aren't using any WIOA students on, you may want to send us an email saying, take this off because we're not using it for any reason. So you don't have to report on that class at the end of the year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have a bunch of programs that we don't have listed under WIOA, but that's not that doesn't apply. Just the programs where we do provide training to students who are taking advantage of that program. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Just one list. Okay.
Right. So yeah. So when you guys have access to your account, you can go on there and see which ones are active, and I guess from there you can determine if you want to keep those on or not, or if these are current programs or not.
Okay. Will do. Thank you, Norris.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we now have a question from Ms. Diaz. Okay.
Hello, good morning. I have actually like 2 or 3 questions.
Okay.
The first one is, if we already sent the email, we responded to an email where you were asking about the 2 options for reporting.
Yes.
I believe as an organization, we chose the aggregate report. Do we need to do any follow-up with that, or did you keep that in record and the one we chose already?
Yes, we'll keep that on record. So when it comes time to do that, when you go into your profile and download it, the aggregate will be the one that downloads into your profile.
Okay, and do you need us to report on 2020, or are we starting with 2021 and moving forward?
It's 2021 moving forward. Is that correct, Steve?
That's correct. So we're currently in the middle of reporting for PY20. So I was asking you to hold off on experimenting in the system once you get your account set up. But after October 1st, if you want to see how the functionality works without actually submitting for your PY21, you're more than welcome to start putting in information for PY20, but we ask that you hold off until after October.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had was in reference to the account setup. As an organization, we are one organization, but we have different centers with approved programs. Do we set up one account, or do we need to set up an account per center?
The best way to probably do is have one person in charge of the whole account rather than have you having 2 different people, because get kind of confusing sometimes. So
Yes,
if you can just have one person do it, I can give them access and they'll be able to maintain the whole account.
perfect, perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Then my last question is there a place in the on your website so we can see the process to get new programs approved? We have several new programs that are over a year old and we're ready to request approval for those.
Right.
Where can I find the process to follow, the steps to follow to request the approval?
Okay, for that, what you need to do is contact your local workforce development contact. I'm not sure what area you're in, but you would contact whoever that is and let them know that there's some programs you want to add on to the ETPL at that point, and they'll take you through that process. Each local area is different on how they process those requests, so that's probably gonna be the best way to do it.
Okay, so you're telling me there's not a delineated process for ETPL approval?
No,
What the local WIOA office tells you?
yes, that's the first step. You have to go through that office for that process, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, we have, let's see. Ms. Dickinson?
Yes, we train in multiple states. And so so do we report on all students regardless of their location, or only students in ETPL approved programs who are Georgia residents?
Only the individuals that are currently in Georgia.
Okay, just, I thought so, but wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Ms. Fairclough?
This is Sherry Bandy. I'm the
Okay.
coordinator. I've just joined this meeting. I didn't know about it. I'm not on the email list, but I'm responsible for this.
Okay.
Is there any way to get the recording for the first part of the meeting?
Yes, the whole presentation is recorded, and we'll send out the link for that after this is over.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So Norris, I saw that there were, I guess, 7 questions that came through the Q&A box
Okay.
during the presentation that you answered. Did you want to go through those so that everybody hears the response, or at least touch on some of them?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, and then on the open questions, I'll help out by reading the question and then you can respond. Does that work?
Okay. Okay. So some of the questions we had in the question and answer box was, will the slides be available prior to the meeting? As I just said, as soon as this meeting is over, we're going to send the whole presentation out. So you'll have the whole video for this, so you can go back and watch it again. So Mr. Thompson asked, what URL is the profile asking for when you set up your profile? It's asking for the URL of your institution when you go in. So you'll see that when you set up your profile, that's what it's asking for, the website for your institution. All right. Ms. Lear asked, what happens if a non-paid WIOA student attends but refuses to give the SSN? That's happened in a few other states, and we've heard back on that. Unfortunately, you can only report what information you have. So if there are some students that don't get the information, you can't report it. So you won't list it on there. Is that correct, Steve?
That's correct. I will add though, while we won't be able to get earnings information from our UI wage matches, you still could get credit for credential attainment and completion rates and those measures that aren't dependent on the SSN. So I would put in a pseudo SSN, like basically a fake one, that has leading 9, so 99999 and then 99999. And then that way there's an entry in our spreadsheet for that person, and then you could put in their credential information if they obtained the credential and any of the completion information.
Right. Okay. Steve, you may be able to answer this one also. I had two people asked, do we ever get access to the data sent to USDOL, the final report? Will the providers get access to that?
So you won't have the raw file for security issues, but the resultants information will be published on USDOL's webpage. it will also be a part of your profile as well. So the performance information, once it's calculated, will be included in your provider profile.
Okay. All right, and then Ms. Myers Jenkins asked, what happens if the course is approved but no WIOA students are enrolled? Again, if it's on the ETPL, you have to report on it. So if it's a class or a program and there's 30 people in it, but none of them are WIOA students, you still have to report on that class regardless if there's anyone in it or not. So it still counts. All right.
All right, thank you, Norris. We can now move to the open questions. And let's see, from Amy Willis, ABAC will have no earnings employment information.
Okay, so they may want to use the detailed format on that then. I mean, with the SSN report, if you have no access to get the earnings or employment information, so that may be the better choice as far as your reporting method.
And Demi McManus, and y'all, I'll apologize up front if I butcher your names, but does an organization / institution only have one responsible party for reporting of all courses across the institution? And I think you touched on that, but you might want to mention it again.
Right. So so say that there's more than one individual that does on the ETPL at the institution. It's best just to have one individual that's in charge of the whole thing rather than two people setting up a profile. That can kind of confusing, you know, if one person takes something off and the other one doesn't. So what we suggest in that case is each institution only have one person that's in charge of their profile and sort of maintains what programs are on there and which ones that are active and sends in the report at the end of the year.
All right, thank you. Let's see, Lily Johnson asks, where can we find the spreadsheets you showed us?
Okay, we sent the templates out earlier. If you want, Ms. Johnson, if you can send an email to etpl@tcsg.edu, I can send you the templates. You can see the two different templates of what they look like.
Norris, is that something that we could add to the website as well?
Yeah, yes, I can add the two spreadsheets on there too. So.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Those will just be templates, however. But once you create your account, you should be able to download those reports once they're populated in the system from your profile.
Okay.
And it'll populate with your individual institutions programs, not just a template.
All right. Claudia George asked, should only one person per institution set up an account, and who should that be?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, yes, we would prefer only one person, and that's up to you who that person is. Just as soon as they set up the profile, send an email back to us and letting know that the profile has been set up and it's pending your access. So like I said, it sort of speeds up the process and we are able to give you access to it. So as soon as whoever that person is does it, please send us an email and let us know that it's been set up.
I also suggest it be somebody who's fairly, versed in Excel and spreadsheet data entry type tasks as well.
All right, second question from Ms. George. How would we know which students are Georgia WorkSource students? Is that based by major?
Not sure. Steve, you know?
Well, I mean, for the purposes of the report, you'll be giving information for all students in the program. So you don't necessarily need to delineate, who's WorkSource or WIOA students and who's not. But if you want to know, I would get with your financial aid staff and see if you can get that information from them, or work with your local area and see if they can and you get that information there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jordan Thompson asked, what is the email address again?
Okay, that's going to be etpl@tcsg.edu. It's on the wall. Okay, it's not on the page. Yes, that's going to be the email address.
All right, looks like we have someone that has raised their hand. Tanisha Tooks.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
yes, hello, Tanisha.
Hey, Norris, I just got one question. I'm just trying to make sure I understand what's being said. We're only reporting on the WEOR participants. So say, for example, nursing, how we have participants in nursing that are not WEOR participants. We wouldn't have to report on the participants that are not in WEOR, just the ones that are enrolled in WEOR services, correct?
No, you're reporting on everyone that's in that nursing program. If the nursing program is on the ETPL, you have to report on everyone in that class, in that program.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, Angela Birch asked, for colleges, should we have one portal per school? We have multiple departments that use the ETPL, adult ed, academic affairs, economic development, etc. And I know some of this might be repeated the answer, but might be worth repeating.
Yeah, I would suggest like that again, only have one person doing it. Even though you may have 4 different departments that use the ETPL, it's best to have one person that's familiar with the that program and doing it. So they sort of know what's going on within those 4 departments and which ones are active, and if anything needs to be changed as far as any edits to the programs or anything like that. So there's just one person. There was a question before that that I think we should answer too for some of the providers. For Mr. Smith, will the report be for all students or for only Georgia students? This came up during a meeting we had for the ETPL and performance. Say that you're a provider and you're on the border between, say, here in South Carolina or here in Alabama, and you have students that live in the other state, but they go to your institution in Georgia. You have to report it on students regardless. So even though they may live in the other state, but they go to that institution here in Georgia, you have to report on them. So not just Georgia residents, it's anybody that goes to your institution that's in that program. All right.
All right, have a hand raised from Jordan Thompson.
All right.
Hi, I just would like to know if you need to create the account in order to see the approved programs.
Yes, you do. Well, no, you can go to the public side of the website and see what's active in the profile that way also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so if you go to worksourcegaportal.com and then you scroll down to training providers, you click that and then type in the name of the institution, you can see what's active in the account that way also.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, another question from Tanisha Tooks. If programs are removed, will we have to go back through the reapproval process to have them added back?
That would depend on the reason for their removal. So typically, yes, if they are taken off for whatever reason, we'd have to go back through that approval process again. But those are done on a case-by-case basis. So it depends on whatever the case is on why it was removed.
Okay, tell me that web address again, and I'll put it in the chat box. Somebody's asking for that.
For the email address or the website address?
Does the web address?
WorkSourceGAportal.com.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll skip over some of the questions that it looks like you've already answered, unless you want to address it again about colleges needing one portal registration, even though multiple areas utilize the ETPL.
Yeah, it's the same response that we'd prefer you have just one individual doing it.
Okay, and we do have a question, a raised hand from Stuart Phillips.
All right.
Good morning. I've got Brandy Dover here with me, and she'd like to ask a question.
Okay.
Yes, this kind of has to do with a few of the same questions, but together. Did I hear that there would be a report available to show who is currently in our approved programs on the ETPL? Meaning, let's say we're in Region 1. GNTC, but Atlanta region may have a student attending GNTC that our Region 1 WIA does not know about. And if we want to remove a program, but we don't know that Atlanta Regional might have a student in that program, and we accidentally remove it.
Yes, that's something we can do on a case-by-case basis, Brandon. We can pull a report to see if there's any active students in that class before it's removed. As a matter of fact, we may do that anyway, just to be sure. So
Okay, great.
Right. So if you do send us a list of saying, please remove these 5 programs, we'll run a report to make sure there's no current students in the program with Rio before we do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and from Deborah Dixon, I think to clarify, report on students in ETPL regardless of state or Georgia, regardless of state, or is it Georgia residents only?
No, that's anybody that's currently in that class. Like I said, so say that your provider or institution that's on the border, with another state, and the residents of that other state go to the institution in Georgia, you have to report on those students too. Now, the other state's going to report on those students also because they're in Georgia, I believe. So, but if they go to your institution, regardless of whatever state they're in, you have to report on those students also.
All right, we have a raised hand from Karen Faircloth.
Okay.
I hate to ask a question you may have already answered, but what is the reporting period?
The next reporting period is going to be 1 July of this year to June 30th of 2022.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, let's see, from Lakeisha Thomas, what do we do if we can't get in contact with our local WIOA office?
Okay, just email us at email the ETPL at tcsg.edu and we'll get you in contact with that local representative.
Okay, and then a raised hand from Carrie Loki.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello, Carrie.
Hey, so say I have a program and all of my students are in South Carolina, but it's on the Georgia ETPL. Am I going to report that then to Georgia and to South Carolina, even though none of my students would be Georgia students?
Yeah, so say that you have no current Georgia students, but all those individuals live in South Carolina, you still have to report on them because it's on the Georgia ETPL.
So, and I guess the reason I ask is because we're looking at getting on the ETPL in like 4 different states. So I'm going to submit basically the exact same report to 4 different states. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? Because I'm going to have students in each state. So each state would get the same report, essentially?
Basically, yes. So if the course is currently active in Georgia, it's on our current ETPL, but none of those students live in Georgia, you still have to report on them in Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's see, question from Amy Willis. Are all the rules for data collection delineated in a document? And she had a follow-up comment that she knows nothing about the entire process.
Well, Steve, how do you want to answer that one?
I'm not sure what rules. I mean, there's a couple of Tegels we could point her to if she's looking for what the requirements are, and I'm not sure which rule she's looking for.
Okay.
Norris, could she follow up with you?
Yes, please send an email to etpl@tcsg.edu and we'll follow you up with send you what documentation we do have on that.
Thank you. Don White asked, how do we assure we are on the email lists?
Okay. Again, just send an email to the etpl@tcsg.edu and we'll make sure you're on the current list for information.
And I believe everybody had to register, or maybe even when you logged on, enter your name and email. So we'll have that list as well. Okay. Jesse Clark asks, if we remove an approved program from our list because we don't have any WIOA students, are we able to add it back on once we get a student?
Yes, at that point, you would just get back in contact with your local workforce development office and let them know that you want to add that program back on, and then they'll go through the process of doing that.
Okay, and there's a question about the email address again, which I see that you put in the chat box, the etpl@tcsg.edu.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Willis, please send an email to that and I can send you the information that we sent out earlier. If you didn't receive it, I'll send it back out to you.
All right, and a question, could you please, okay, so several people asking for that email address. All
Yeah.
right, and the website where, okay, what is the website where we can set up an account?
That's the WorkSourceGAportal.com. It's in the chat box also.
Portal.com. Okay. Okay, and then let's see, I might be looking at some repeat questions here. I apologize. Okay. So do we clarify with Ms. Willis about the Georgia? Let's see. Okay, yeah, I'm just saying, I'm sorry, I'm seeing some running questions. Where again on the portal would our school find the programs?
Okay, if you don't want to log in and you want to see your institution's current programs, you would go to that website, WorkSourceGAportal.com. Scroll down till you see where it says training providers, click that link, and then it brings up a search page. That's where you type in the name of your institution, and then it will bring up all the current programs you have on the ETPL. Once you have a profile and you're able to log in, on the front page of your profile, you'll see a link where it says Manage Institutional Programs. You click that and it'll bring up the same page. So those are the two ways you can find the current active programs for your institution.
Norris, I just noticed in the chat box, and if you already touched on this, I apologize. Do we report only students that are in your program?
Yes. Only the current students that are on the ETPL, whatever that approved program is, if it's on the ETPL, they have to report on those students.
Okay. And Carrie Loki asks, can you send us all the TEAGL that pertains to this topic?
Yes, we can do that. We can send that out.
Okay. Or again, can we add it to the website? So that
yes, I can add that along with the two spreadsheets. Yes.
So what we'll do is when we send out the link, thanking you for participating, you'll have access to the presentation, the recording, this Q&A session as well, and then the documents that Norris mentioned. Any additional resources pertaining to this topic. Okay, Michelle Williams, does the program have to be removed or can it be deactivated until we have participants?
Well, for the purpose of this, it's sort of the same thing. So yes, once you do have, you can remove it. And then once you have any students, we can put it back on. So it can be reactivated at that point. So yes.
Let's see. Again, Carrie Loki, last question that I see asking, where on the portal do we find the spreadsheets? Is this the templates that you were referring to earlier?
Yeah, so we'll say that will be added with all the other material. Once this is over, we'll add that to the page so you can see the templates for the different spreadsheets.
And we'll get all of this the link to all of this information to you as soon as we can. It will be within a week. If sooner, we'll get it out to you as soon as we've got everything ready to be distributed, to be posted. And that's all of the questions that I see. Does anybody else have any questions? You want to raise your hand? Hold on, I'm sorry. Will there be a deadline date to get all the data submitted?
Yes, the end of the program year, as I said, is June 30th of next year. So we're going to give you a little bit time after that to collect all the data and get the spreadsheets together. So it's probably going to be, at this point, tentative, sometime in August that we're going to ask for you to submit the spreadsheets, August of next year, 2022. That's tentative right now. That's the date we're looking at, sometime in August. More information will come before that to let you know exactly when the data is will need it. And there will probably be another presentation like this over Zoom to show you exactly how to upload the spreadsheets back into the system, because that's a different process altogether in itself. So we'll send more information later once that's available. All right, we have a question from Ms. Price.
Yes, it's Laura Price. I'm calling from Gwinnett Tech.
Okay.
And just thinking about this, so let's say we have a nursing program that maybe has 100 students currently enrolled. If half of them don't provide their social security number, could that program be in danger of being removed from the ETPL?
It's possible, but as Steve had said earlier, if you can't get the social, that's when you would put the generic social in, and they can still get credit for the credential.
Okay, so you would still look at different measures.
Right, different measures of that. So yeah, you just put in, I guess, the 7 9s and then put if they received a credential or not at that point.
Okay.
They don't receive, yes.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
There are a couple more questions that have come in. Excuse me. Stuart Phillips asks, do you have an update on any reporting assistance TCSG will be able to provide to TCSG colleges?
Okay, we are working with the data department. Steve, can you give any insight on that, on what's happening with that?
So we're working with TCSG's the credit side of the house to try and get information on students who have their socials already in the system, and developing a process for those credit programs to get completed with information we have on hand.
Okay.
All right, and for clarification, Mary Stein, when you were talking about submitting the data, said, so you don't want data submitted during the time period, only at the end?
That's correct, yes. So at the end, when we send the date when we need the spreadsheet uploaded, that's when we'll want all the data on that one spreadsheet, on whichever one you choose, submit at that time. So we don't need it quarterly or monthly, or it's gonna be a one-time entry that you have to submit the data.
All right, Jason Tanner asks, do we just report during the next period when we have a program that runs beyond June 30th?
Yes, you would still report on it if it falls within that reporting period. If that makes sense, yes.
Okay.
So even if it starts, like, say, in May, but it goes past the reporting period, you would still report on it. If all the individuals in the class, you would have to select that they're still currently enrolled rather than completed.
All right, and let's see, one more question. I manage a certificate credentialing program. I'm not sure if it has a CIP code. Should I just pick a CIP code similar to it in the system?
When you download the spreadsheet, that's already going to be on there. You don't have to enter that in. So it's already going to be populated with that zip code already inside of it. So the only thing you have to enter into the spreadsheet will be the information for the participants, for the students.
The zip code is the one that was used when the program was created in the system. So you want to make sure if that zip code that's in the system for that program is accurate, and Ken's just to do your best. If there's not one that's perfectly aligned, just pick one that's close.
Okay, I don't see any more questions, but we'll wait a minute or two. Question in the chat box, how do we make sure the zip code is accurate?
Once you download the spreadsheet and you look at the zip code, if it isn't, just let us know, and then we can go back and fix that, on our end. So if you do download it and it's not what you think it should be, just send us an email and we'll go ahead and we'll answer that at that point.
Okay, Karen, did that answer the question for you? She wasn't familiar with the zip code and what do we check against? But I think you just answered that. I think.
Yeah, so when the program is created, we have to put the zip code in it. So all the programs already have zip codes associated with it at this point. So if you download it and you don't agree with what it is, or you think it should be something else, just let us know and we can do it at that point. We can address it at that point.
Okay.
The zip code is basically an education code. It's how the government classifies education programs. So if you don't, if you're not familiar with the coding structure, the National Center of Education Statistics is the website you can go to just peruse and get all you need to know about zip codes.
Okay, we have a question from Demi McManus. How do we decide which reporting method we should use?
That is up to each institution on which one they use. So you have a little bit of time to decide, but right now, like I said in the presentation, the default mode for all the profiles, unless you told us beforehand, is going to be the SSN method. So right now, if you were to go in and download it, that's going to be the method. If you want to use the other one, you didn't let us know, and we can change your profile to reflect that. But right now, the default method is going to be the social reporting method.
And it really comes down to which method your institution can comply with. If you have access to social security numbers, that method's going to be your best bet. If you don't, you'll want to do the aggregate method, but that will require some follow-up on your staff's end once your students leave the program to get employment and earnings information after the fact.
I think are there any more questions verbally or through the chat box?
I don't see any.
Okay. All right. I just had one more comment and then we can, I guess, go to the end, Robin.
Okay.
Thank you guys for all attending. Again, please go to that website and set up your profile for whoever that person is at each institution. Once you set up the profile, send me the email letting me know that it's been set up, and then I can grant you access so you can go in and look at your profile at that point. And again, please go in and look at all the active programs you have and determine if you want to keep those or take any off, because at the end, you will be grading on all the active programs, regardless if you use it or not. So, please do that. And if you have any questions, again, you can email us at etpl@tcsg.edu and we'll answer those and get back with you. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Norris and Stephen. Just as a reminder, we will be setting up the link within a week to the recording, the presentation, and any additional resources. So thank you for participating, and we hope that you have a wonderful day.